Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Namaste, my witchlings. Let us take a moment to just arrive. Wherever you are, sitting, standing, driving, folding laundry, curled up under a blanket, pretending you're just listening, while actually doing about 17 other things, just let yourself land. Feel your breath without changing it. Feel the weight of your body being held by something beneath you, the chair, the floor, the bed, the earth. You are supported right now, even if nothing else in this world feels stable. This, my witchlings, is Yoga Witch's Cauldron, where we practice staying, not fixing or performing, just staying. So take just a quick moment to do the whole like, share, subscribe thing. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and join this channel if you feel so called and you have the financial means to do so. All right, my witches. Let's get chatting, shall we? So, this week's theme is remembering who you are. Remembering who you are, okay? Our Sanskrit phrase guiding us is Ātmānaṁ viddhi, know thyself. Not define yourself or optimize yourself or brand yourself or improve yourself into someone more palatable. No. Know yourself. And let's be honest, from the get-go, remembering who you are is so not glamorous. It's not a lightning bolt realization. It's not a viral quote. It is not a perfectly curated, I have healed announcement. It's quieter than that. It's kind of repetitive. It's embodied. And it is sometimes uncomfortable as all fucking hell. Not because you're broken, but because you're finally listening. So let's settle in. Let this simmer. And let tonight be less spectacle and more hearth. Take a sip and we'll get started. All right, my witches. We live in a culture absolutely obsessed with identity. What do you do? What do you believe? What do you eat? Who did you vote for? What label fits you and what label should fit you, right? Identity is everywhere. It's in bios, it's in branding, it is in algorithms that try to predict what kind of person you are based on what you clicked at 2:17 a.m. while eating leftovers over the freaking sink. Identity is useful. Let's not pretend it isn't. It's social shorthand. It helps us find community. It helps give language to experience. For many people, though, naming identity can be life-saving. It can be clarifying. It can definitely be liberating. But identity is not the same thing as essence. Identity is how you are known in context. Essence is how you exist when no one else is looking. Identity answers, who am I in relation to this group, this culture, this moment? Essence answers, what is steady beneath all of that? Ātmānaṁ viddhi, know thyself. It does not mean assemble a more impressive identity. It does not mean curate yourself more accurately. It means know the animating core beneath all of it. In classical yoga philosophy, Atman refers to the inner self. Not ego, not personality, not your trauma history or your resume, and definitely not your preferences. It is that deeper awareness that observes all of that. The witness, the steady flame behind the shifting shadows. And before anyone starts floating towards the ceiling in spiritual abstraction, let's ground this shit, shall we? This is not about transcending your humanity. You still have preferences and wounds, and you still have strong opinions about whether pumpkin spice is delicious or an annual assault on cinnamon. Just saying. Hi, I'm a pumpkin spice fan. This is not this is not about denying the personality. It's about recognizing that your personality is not the entirety of you. And here is where it gets practical, all right? It's the difference between saying, I am angry, and I am feeling anger, or anger is moving through me. That teeny tiny little linguistic shift, that is tectonic. Because if you are the anger, well, then you got to defend it, justify it, protect it, build arguments around it. If someone challenges it, they're challenging you, right? But if anger is moving through you, like weather, you can listen to it without becoming it. You can ask, what boundary of mine is being crossed? What value feels threatened right now? And what needs protection? Anger becomes information, not identity. The same is true for sadness or joy or anxiety or even ambition. I am anxious locks you into a static definition. Anxiety is present, or I am experiencing some anxiety, allows you to respond. Essence is steady. Identity is adaptive. Identity shifts depending on environment. You are different at work than you are with your closest friends. You are very much different with your kids than you are alone in your car. You're different in the grocery store line than you are in a ritual circle. That doesn't make you fake. Oh, dear gods, no, that doesn't make you fake. It makes you contextual. I mean, are you going to show up in the carpool line at school, the pickup line at school, dressed to go clubbing? Does that make you fake when you're dressed as mom or dressed as clubbing? Same person. But when we forget the difference between contextual adaptation and core truth, we start abandoning ourselves in the name of coherence. We stay in jobs that do not align with our inner values because, well, this is who I am. I'm the reliable one. I'm the provider. I'm the achiever. We stay in relationships that constrict because this is my role. I'm the caretaker and the peacemaker. I'm the strong one. We override our instincts because that would contradict my image. People see me as calm, easygoing, and unbothered. We confuse consistency of presentation with integrity of self. And here is an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the identity you built was necessary. It got you through something. It kept you safe. It earned approval when approval meant survival. But necessary doesn't mean permanent. The HearthFire approach to self-knowledge doesn't demand you torch everything. It doesn't say blow up your life because you had a realization on a Tuesday. It says light the room. HearthFire doesn't blaze, it warms. It illuminates gradually. When you set fire to something, when you light a room, instead of setting it on fire, you can see the furniture clearly. You can see where you've been stubbing your toe on the chair, right? You can see what fits, what doesn't. Remembering who you are is less about changing your life overnight and more about noticing where you've confused your current configuration with your core truth. Your current configuration could include a specific job or a specific relationship dynamic, a specific set of habits, or a political identity, or maybe just a specific aesthetic. None of those are wrong, but they are simply configurations. They are not essence. Essence is the part of you that recognizes injustice before you have words for it. The part that softens when you see kindness, and that part of you that feels alive when you're creating, and that part that tenses when the vibe is off. Essence isn't loud, it doesn't scream. It just kinda hums. And if you've been living at high volume for a very long time, that hum can be kinda hard to hear. So the work of Ātmānaṁ viddhi is not dramatic self-reinvention, it is quiet differentiation. This role I play, is it aligned with what feels true? This belief I hold, does it still fit or is it inherited? This pattern I keep repeating, is it protective or is it kind of outdated? That kind of inquiry requires a lot of courage. Because when identity starts to loosen, it can very much feel destabilizing. Because, if I'm not this role, then who am I? How many of us have known someone who lost a job and went through an identity crisis? Or the empty nesters who are, who am I if I'm not mom anymore or not dad anymore? You are now the awareness noticing this role. You are the flame, not the costume. And here is the beauty of all of this. When you stop clinging to identity as essence, you actually gain some flexibility. You can update roles without feeling like you are erasing part of yourself. You can change your mind without feeling like you're betraying who you are. Essence is not threatened by evolution. Identity adapts. Essence remains. HearthFire self-knowledge doesn't burn your house down. It lights the room so you can see where you're bumping into furniture. And once you can see clearly, you don't have to run head first into the same sharp corners over and over and over again. You can move with awareness. You can rearrange gently and you can stay without abandoning yourself. Sip. Let's check in with chat real quick. Like, whoa, hello. I see a Hazel. I see Grace. I see a Valerie. And a Nicole. Mm-hmm. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, Irish, good to see ya. And Mike. 2 a.m. activities. Mike. Hello, love Sora. Ooh, somebody's a Kingdom Hearts fan, I'll bet. Yeah. Yep, I see that. Wow. I didn't realize Joram was my brother's age. That's kind of cool, actually. Did I? Do I just keep forgetting that one? Okay. Boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna have to play all of my fucking apps so I can figure out what song keeps playing in my head. Anyway, here we go. Back to what we were talking about. I'm gonna take another drink and refocus. So, how did we learn to abandon ourselves? Ooh, this is a good one. So, nobody wakes up at round about age 6 and says, you know what's going to be fun? Chronic self-abandonment. Let's make that my entire personality. We learn it. We learn that approval feels safer than authenticity. We learn that being easy gets rewarded. Not in that way, you guys. Get your minds out the gutter. We learn that saying yes keeps the peace. We learn that shrinking reduces conflict. And here's the part that's really, really, really crucial. Your nervous system is not stupid. It adapts to survive. So if at some point in your life being fully yourself felt unsafe, whether that be emotionally, physically, socially, you developed coping strategies, not because you were flawed, oh no, but because you were intelligent. A child who learns that big emotions are met with ridicule becomes quieter. A teenager who learns that disagreement leads to rejection becomes agreeable. An adult who learns that vulnerability is weaponized becomes self-contained. Now, these are not character defects, y'all. They are adaptations. People-pleasing, hyper-independence, intellectualizing feelings, humor as deflection, silence, over-explaining. Each one, every single one of those coping mechanisms began as protection. People-pleasing. It says, well, if I meet your needs first, maybe I can stay safe here because you won't get mad because you want or need something. Hyper-independence says, if I don't need anybody, ain't nobody going to be able to hurt me. Intellectualizing your feelings. Well, if I can analyze this, I don't have to actually feel it. Humor says, if I make you laugh, you won't look too closely. Or if I make you laugh, you're laughing at what I'm doing instead of at me. Silence tells us, if I disappear, I won't be the target anymore. Over-explaining, well, if I justify myself enough, or if I justify what I've done or said enough, you won't leave and you won't get mad at me. None of these things make you weak, my dear. They make you adaptable. But adaptability can harden into habit, and then habit can masquerade as identity. Oh, I'm just a people person. Oh, I'm just really, really independent. I'm the funny one. I don't get emotional. Oh, honey, I'm low maintenance. We're fine. Maybe. Or maybe these were strategies that kept you safe once upon a time. And here is where Ātmānaṁ viddhi becomes radical. Because to know yourself, you have to gently ask first, where did I start performing to stay connected? Where did I start calling self-betrayal compromise? Where and when did I start abandoning my own signals? This question is not an indictment. It's not a courtroom, and it is sure as hell not a moral failing. It's an invitation. An invitation to trace the origin of your patterns with compassion instead of shame. Self-abandonment rarely ever announces itself dramatically. It doesn't usually show up as, "Hi, I'm now officially betraying myself." No, my dear. It's a lot subtler than that. It's fine. I don't care. Oh, honey, it doesn't matter. I'll deal with it later. Don't mind me. I'm just being dramatic right now. Listen very, very closely to those phrases. They usually arrive right after your body has let you know that it's not comfortable. That little clench in your gut, your heart skipping a beat. Someone crossed a line. You feel a tightening in your chest. Somebody requests something of you. Your stomach drops. A random comment stings and you clench your jaw. And then your mind sweeps in. Oh, it's fine. I'm overreacting. Don't make this a thing. That is your moment of micro-abandonment. Not because you have to confront everything immediately. Not because you have to escalate every discomfort. We are not Karens here. But because something in you registered impact and you dismissed it out of hand before even investigating a goddamn thing. Your body, on the other hand, keeps score. The tightening in your jaw, the heaviness in your chest, the shallow breath you didn't notice until bedtime. The exhaustion that all the sleep in the world just doesn't seem to fix. Chronic self-abandonment is metabolized physically. The nervous system can only override its own systems or signals. Let's try that sentence again. The nervous system can only override its own signals for so long before it gets louder through anxiety or burnout, irritability, or even numbness. Your body is not traumatic. It's information. Now, information can be misinterpreted. Trauma can definitely distort some signals. Ask me how I know. Anxiety can amplify them. That's very real. But the goal here is not blind obedience to every sensation. Our goal is to be curious about them. Instead of, oh, it's inconvenient to feel this right now, try, okay, this feeling is informative. Instead of, I really shouldn't be feeling this way, try, what is this feeling protecting? HearthFire practice says slow down enough to read it. Not to fix it immediately. Not to justify it or to broadcast it. Just read it. Because self-abandonment often began in moments where speed was necessary. You didn't have the luxury of pausing. You needed to adapt on the fly right fucking now. Okay, now if you are safe enough, stable enough, resourced enough, even slightly, now you can introduce something new. You can pause. When you notice the automatic yes, pause. When you feel the urge to over-explain, pause. When you catch yourself laughing off something that hurt, pause. That pause is revolutionary. It interrupts the inherited reflex, and it causes a fraction of space between stimulus and strategy. In that space, essence has room to speak. Maybe the answer is still yes. Maybe the compromise is worth it. Maybe the joke still lands. But now, it's chosen and deliberate. Self-knowledge doesn't demand that you dismantle every single adaptation overnight. Dear gods, no. Some strategies are still going to be useful. Some are still protective in specific environments. The work is not to shame your coping mechanisms. The work is to update them, to recognize when a survival strategy has straight up outlived its usefulness, to distinguish between I am this way and I learned to be this way. That distinction is incredibly liberating because what was learned can be revised and potentially unlearned. And when you start tracing your patterns back to their origins, not with blame, but with understanding, something softens. You realize you were doing the best you could with the information and the resources you had at that time. And now you have more awareness. Now you can choose differently, incrementally, just little bits at a time, little bit okay. HearthFire doesn't rip your coping mechanisms out from under... That didn't sound right. HearthFire doesn't rip your coping mechanisms out of your hands. It warms the room enough that you can see everything clearly. And when you can see clearly, you can decide, does this still serve who I'm becoming? Or is this a relic of who I had to be once upon a time? That right there is the radical tenderness of Ātmānaṁ viddhi. Not self-judgment or self-optimization. Self-honesty. And from that honesty, a steadier kind of connection becomes possible. One that doesn't require you to disappear to belong. I'll let that sit for a second while I take another sip. All right, y'all. Let's get embodied. We're going to see the body as an oracle. What? Oh. Apparently I misheard the man behind the curtain. Alright, so the body as oracle. For a divination witch, this sounds interesting, so let's get embodied. You don't need incense, you don't need a playlist, you do not need to rearrange your furniture into a perfect meditation grid. Just notice. Take a breath. Don't deepen it, don't optimize it, just observe. Where does your breath stop? Does it reach your belly? Does it kind of hover in your chest? Does it barely move at all? Breath is one of the fastest ways to read your internal state. When we feel safe, breath tends to drop lower, and it widens, and it softens. When we feel guarded or activated, it rises, tightens, and shortens. This isn't spiritual poetry, even though it sounds like it. It's physiology. Now, bring to mind something small. It's nothing catastrophic, just a recent interaction, a text you received, a decision you made, a plan you agreed to, or a comment that you got on social media. Notice your body's response before your mind explains it. Did something tighten? Did something soften? Did something lean in with interest? Does something want to recoil and pull back? This is not mystical shit. This is neurobiology, which is fascinating, by the way. Your nervous system processes cues of safety and threat faster than conscious thought. Long before you craft a story or justify, rationalize, or minimize, your body has already reacted. Amygdala, the amygdala. Sorry, I flashed back to another content creator. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection system, can fire in milliseconds. Your heart rate shifts, your muscles prepare, hormones release, and all of this happens before you even form a sentence about it in your mind. Your body is constantly scanning. Is this safe? Is this aligned? Is this too much? Is this not enough? But most of us, we're trained to distrust that scan. We override it with logic or politeness or I'm sure it's nothing. We override it with don't be difficult, don't make a scene, or with this is just how life is. And sometimes I will admit that override is necessary. Not every flutter of discomfort requires dramatic action. But chronic override, oh honey, that's where we lose the thread of ourselves. Now, let's stay honest. Your body, your gut is not infallible. Trauma can distort perception. Hi. If you've been hurt before, your nervous system may very well register danger where there is none. Anxiety can amplify signals. Old wounds can definitely echo in new rooms. But distortion doesn't mean discard. It means investigate with kindness. Instead of, oh my god, I'm overreacting. Try, okay, what is this sensation trying to protect? Instead of, I really shouldn't feel this way. Try, what boundary is asking for attention right now? Instead of dismissing that tightening in your chest, get curious about it. Is it fear? Anger? Grief? Is it your intuition giving you a not so gentle nudge? The body does not lie in the way the mind does. It doesn't spin elaborate narratives. God, brain. It doesn't rewrite hit. Apparently I'm having trouble speaking tonight. Please bear with me. The body does not lie in the same way the mind does. It doesn't spin elaborate narratives. It doesn't rewrite history to maintain a self-image. It registers impact. The mind says, I'm fine. The body says, that landed. The mind says, don't make it awkward. The body says, dude, that crossed a line. The mind says, this is what you should want. The body says, this vibe is off. Ātmānaṁ viddhi practice through the body means we stop treating sensation as an inconvenience and start treating it as information. You don't have to act immediately on this. You don't have to confront someone on the spot. You really don't have to blow up your plans. You do, however, have to notice. And that noticing shortens the distance between awareness and honoring. If you feel the contraction and you clock it in real time, you are far less likely to override it reflexively. If you sense the softening, you're more likely to move toward what nourishes you instead of what dazzles you. This is integrity, not perfection or constant comfort. It is not a life free of friction, dear gods, I wish. It is integrity. Integrity is alignment between what you feel and how you respond. It's the practice of letting your inner signals inform your outer actions, even in teeny tiny small ways. You feel tired, so you rest instead of pushing through. You feel uneasy. You ask one more question instead of ignoring it. You feel joy. You let yourself linger instead of rushing past it. The body is not a problem to be solved. It's an oracle in plain clothes. No smoke, no theatrics, no just muscle, breath, and a pulse. The more consistently you listen, gently, without dramatizing, without dismissing, the clearer those signals become. That, my friends, is the embodied path of knowing yourself. Not abstract, not disembodied, not performative, just present. And now, I want to talk about something. So, if you're enjoying this podcast and you would like to step just a smidge bit deeper into our coven here, consider clicking on that join button and becoming a member of our channel. There it is. There are some amazing perks for all of my witchlings, with levels starting at just $1 a month. How affordable is that, my friends? And a quick little reminder that you can also help our channel out for free by doing the whole like, share, and subscribe thing. Where is it? Do the like, share, and subscribe thing. Ring the bell so that you know when we're posting and going live. Alright, guys. Do the whole like, share, subscribe thing. Share the video with a friend. Share the channel with a friend. You guys are the best, and I appreciate all of your support. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Now let's get back to the show. Alright, let's check in with chat real quick. Okay. I see an Emma. Hi, Emma. Glad to see you. I see a Will. I did see Will come in. Nerve herder. Yes. Do I take dumb questions from clueless males? If I have time at the end, we might. Yeah, come in for Friday Coffee and Q's tomorrow afternoon. 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. I'm Seattle based. All right. Yep. Now let's get back to what we're talking about here. This is one that this segment is near and dear to my heart. So let's talk about the part that nobody is putting on those inspirational graphics. No cross stitches. Nobody's going to cross stitch this on a pillow, and nobody's going to make a sparkly Canva quote about it. When you start remembering who you are, guarantee you somebody else is going to be inconvenienced. Not because you become cruel or selfish, and not because you have changed for the worse, but because you've stopped being as easy to script. If you have been the reliable one, or the agreeable one, the always available one, your shift towards honesty is going to feel like betrayal to those people who benefited from your silence. Let's say that one again, slowly. If you have been the reliable or the agreeable or the always available one, your shift towards internal honesty will feel like betrayal to those people who benefit from your silence. They benefited from your silence. When you have historically absorbed discomfort to keep everything around you smooth, your recalibration disrupts the entire ecosystem. Systems like predictability and roles. You were the one who said yes. You were the one who smoothed it over. You were the professional boat steadier, and you didn't make anything awkward. And now you're saying, oh, I can't commit to that. That doesn't work for me right here. I need more time. Or my favorite and full sentence, no. And someone may blink at you like you just grew 3 more heads. They may respond with confusion or frustration. Or, well, what's gotten into you? You've changed. You're being difficult. Here's the truth, though. You have changed. Or, more accurately, you're allowing something truer to surface. And that doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It simply means that your system is recalibrating. Every relationship, friendships, familial, workplace, etc., develops an unspoken choreography. Who initiates, who apologizes first, who bends, who holds firm, who carries the emotional weight. When one dancer changes their steps, the entire routine shifts. HearthFire self-knowledge is not explosive, but it is steady. And steady change can be far more disruptive than dramatic gestures. Those dramatic gestures are so easy to dismiss. Oh, they were having a moment. Well, that was out of character. They'll go back to normal soon, I promise. Steadiness? That's harder to ignore. When you consistently respond differently, calmly, clearly, without over-explaining, the room feels it. And here is the discipline. Do not abandon yourself to manage their discomfort. This is where those old patterns are going to tug on you. They're going to try and reel you back. The urge to soften your hard no into a maybe. The urge to justify your boundary with a dissertation. The urge to apologize for having limits. The urge to rush in and fix the tension you just created. Pause. Their discomfort is not automatically your emergency. Let me be clear. This is not about becoming cold. It's not about delighting in someone else's frustration. It's not about weaponizing boundaries as personality. This is about adulthood. In adulthood, 2 things can be true at the same time. They are disappointed. You are allowed to choose differently. They feel frustrated. You are not required to override yourself to soothe it. This is not cruelty. It is differentiation. You can be kind without being compliant. You can be compassionate without being self-erasing. You can validate someone's feelings without surrendering your own. So that might sound like, I can hear that this is frustrating for you, or, and I'm still not available for that, or, I understand that you were counting on me, but I need to honor my capacity. Notice the structure here. No attack, no aggression, no drama, just steadiness, clarity. I did. Oh my God, I did. So, I did it myself. My brain swapped a word in my script. I understand that you were counting on me and I need to honor my capacity. By saying, but, you kind of nullify everything that came after that. I understand you were counting on me. I need to honor my capacity and my body is not up to that. So, self-knowledge does not require aggression. It simply requires consistency. Like a hearth flame. A hearth flame doesn't chase anybody around the room demanding recognition. It's not a cat. It does not flare up theatrically to prove its existence. It does not extinguish itself because someone prefers the dark. It burns consistently. And consistency changes rooms. When you stop apologizing for your needs, people recalibrate their expectations. When you stop volunteering for every emotional labor assignment, the distribution shifts. When you stop laughing off what hurts, the tone adjusts. Not immediately, I wish. Not always smoothly, again, I wish, but steadily. Okay, we have to acknowledge something uncomfortable though. Some relationships are not going to survive your steadiness. If the only glue holding something together was your self-abandonment, then self-knowledge is going to feel like a threat. That is painful. That is incredibly painful, and it is incredibly real. However, ask yourself this. Was that connection built on who you are or on who you suppressed? Ātmānaṁ viddhi, know thyself, sometimes reveals that the role you were playing was the only thing keeping the peace. And peace built on your erasure is not peace. It's suppression. HearthFire doesn't demand you torch every dynamic. It asks you to remain warm and steady in your own center long enough to see what adjusts and what resists. Some people are going to adapt beautifully. They'll say, I didn't realize you felt that way. Thank you so very much for telling me. They'll grow with you. Others may very well push back. They're going to test that boundary. They may try to pull you back into the familiar dance. This, my friends, is where discipline becomes devotion. Devotion to your own integrity. Not harsh or rigid or performative, simply consistent. When you say no without hostility over and over again, you teach the room how to relate to you. When you declined without apology over and over and over again, you normalize your capacity. When you stay grounded in your own signals over and over again, you become less reactive and more rooted. Consistency is quieter than confrontation, but it is more transformative. Because eventually, the room stops expecting you to bend in the old ways. And here is the amazingly beautiful paradox to that. When you stop abandoning yourself to maintain connection, the connections that remain become more honest, less performative and resentful, and a lot less brittle. You are no longer loved for your compliance, you are loved for your clarity. And that is a different kind of intimacy. I would much rather be loved for those I include than loved for those I exclude. There is let's see. It may be smaller. It may be slower, but it is definitely sturdier. Self-knowledge, practiced through HearthFire steadiness, does not require you to win arguments or dominate rooms. It asks you to stand in your own center without flinching. It asks you to tolerate the wobble of recalibration. That was a mistake. It asks you to trust that steadiness is not selfish. And when you do, the flame doesn't have to roar. It just keeps burning. And the room, whether it likes it at first or not, adjusts to the light. We're going to take a sip now. Hey, RPG. How are you doing tonight? I'm glad you're feeling better, kiddo. I think you're a kiddo, honey. I'm making myself dizzy. Weebles wobble, weebles wobble. My ADD is bad today. Moving on, my friends. Yup. We are almost done with this show tonight. Sad face. All right, y'all. Will you quit buzzing me? Oh, my bad. That's what I call my children. I will try to remember that one. My apologies. All right. So. Most of us know ourselves more than we admit. We know when we're tired before we call it burnout. We know when a relationship is misaligned before we label it toxic. We know when a yes is actually a no. We know when something feels off before we gather the evidence to justify the feeling. The gap is not awareness, it's action, or more precisely, it's honoring. There's typically a lag between I know that this ain't right and I will respond accordingly. That lag, my friends, is where self-trust erodes. Not because you're foolish or you lack insight, but because every single time you register truth and override it, a teeny tiny little fracture forms. You feel the exhaustion, but you push through. You feel the resentment, but you just swallow it. You feel the misalignment, but you rationalize it. And over time, you start to doubt your own signals. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe this is just how it is. No. Often, it's just that the distance between knowing and honoring has grown too wide. Ātmānaṁ viddhi is incomplete without the second half of the practice. Respond to what you know. Not dramatically or impulsively. Not with a blowtorch. Incrementally. The goal is not to eliminate The goal is not to eliminate hesitation overnight. Hesitation is purely human. It's protective. It gives you time to assess. The goal is to shorten the gap by minutes, then hours, then days. Instead of waiting 6 months to admit something isn't working, maybe you notice it in real time. Instead of waiting until you're seething to set that boundary, maybe you speak up when the discomfort is still small. Instead of overriding your tiredness for the millionth time, maybe you pause at the third. Maybe today you don't overhaul your life. You don't quit your job or rewrite every relationship contract. Maybe today you say, let me get back to you. That sentence alone can change your nervous system because it interrupts the automatic yes. It creates space between request and response, and it allows you to check in with your body instead of reflexively managing someone else's expectations. Maybe you notice the tension in your shoulders and choose to go to bed instead of pushing through one more task. Maybe you name a preference out loud. I would really rather stay in tonight. Or, I don't love that plan. I need to go slower. These are not grand gestures, are they? They are just little micro alignments. Teeny tiny acts of honoring accumulate, my friends. And here is our magic with it. Self-trust rebuilds the same way it was lost. Incrementally. You didn't lose trust in yourself in one dramatic moment. You lost it in dozens upon dozens of small overrides. So you rebuild it in dozens and dozens of small honors. You notice, you respond, you follow through. Each time you act in alignment with what you know, something inside you steadies. You begin to believe in yourself again. You stop arguing internally as much. You stop rehearsing conversations that never ever happen. You stop carrying the quiet resentment of unmet needs. Honoring yourself does not guarantee comfort, though. I want to make that clear. Sometimes it will create awkwardness. Sometimes it will require some difficult conversations. But it reduces the internal friction. And that reduction, oh God, that's peace. HearthFire practice isn't about spectacular transformation. It's about steady warmth. It's about small, consistent alignment. The more you shorten the distance between knowing and honoring, the less you have to chase clarity. Because you're already living it. Not perfectly or flawlessly, but honestly. And honesty, practiced daily, becomes trust. Trust becomes steadiness. And steadiness becomes a life that feels like you actually belong to it. And it belongs to you. Wouldn't that be nice? Another shot. Gonna take a peek real quick. Oh. Okay. Now, my friends, how do we remember without reinventing? There is a subtle trap in the language of finding yourself. It sounds noble, heroic even, like you're heading out on a quest with a dramatic soundtrack and a cloak that catches the wind just right. But sometimes finding yourself quietly morphs into another self-improvement project. New routines, new aesthetics, new declarations, new personality download in progress. Oh, we live in a wonderful culture that loves reinvention. You know, new year, new year. New year, new you. A breakup, glow up. A spiritual awakening as a rebrand. Now, there is nothing inherently wrong with growth. Evolution is real. Sometimes you truly have outgrown a container and stepping into something new is necessary. Here's a gentle challenge for you, though. Not every season of self-knowledge requires demolition and reconstruction. Oftentimes, remembering is not adding, it's subtracting. Subtracting noise and performative urgency or borrowed expectations. Subtracting the shoulds you absorbed without consent. Underneath all of that, you were there. Not a blank slate, not an unfinished draft. There is continuity in you. As a kid who knew what felt unfair before you could articulate systemic injustice. As a teenager who sensed hypocrisy long before you had the vocabulary to call that shit out. As an adult who still flinches at certain tones of voice because your body remembers what your mind has rationalized. That thread, that's not accidental. It's you. Not the roles, not the polished identity, and definitely, certainly not the curated version. It's the through line. You are not building a self from scratch. You are returning. And returning is gentler than reinvention. Reinvention often carries pressure. It whispers, become better, become shinier, become more optimized. It can subtly imply that who you've been isn't enough. Return says something different. Return says, come back to what has always been true. That might be your love of quiet mornings before the world starts making demands, or your need for creative expression that got buried under productivity. It could be your sensitivity that you learned to call weakness, but is actually perception. Or your desire for fewer and deeper connections instead of constant social performance. HearthFire Remembering says, stay close to what warms you consistently, not what dazzles you briefly, not what earns applause, not what trends well, what actually sustains you. A hearthfire. It's not impressive from a distance. It doesn't shoot sparks 10 feet into the air. It doesn't demand constant attention. It just keeps burning. Now that might look like quiet mornings with coffee and a journal. A creative practice you return to even when nobody sees it. Time outside that recalibrates your nervous system. Honest conversation instead of performative networking. Boundaries that feel clean instead of dramatic. Notice this pattern. None of these are flashy. They're just steady. Self-knowledge practiced through remembering rather than reinventing is less about discovering something exotic and more about admitting what has been true for a very long time. I've always needed more rest than I pretended. I have always been more sensitive than I allowed. I've always cared about this value, even when I tried to downplay it. I have always known that environment drained me. Sometimes growth is not about becoming someone else. It's about giving yourself permission to be more accurately yourself. And that accuracy can feel so anticlimactic at first. There's no grand unveiling, no dramatic before and after montage, just a quiet alignment, a sense of, there you are. Return doesn't erase your experiences, it integrates them. It doesn't deny the adaptations you made, it honors them and then gently asks which ones are still necessary. It doesn't demand you throw away everything you've built. It invites you to sift what was built from fear, what was built from love, what came from survival, and what came from joy. Keep what warms, release what only impresses. The world will always, always offer you new identities to try on, new upgrades, new personas, but essence doesn't need constant rebranding. It needs space. Space to breathe, soften, and stay steady. Remembering without reinventing is an act of trust. Trust that you were not fundamentally wrong all along. Trust that beneath the noise, something steady has always been humming. Trust that you do not need to become spectacular to be true. Return. Not as a regression or a retreat, but as a homecoming. And home in the HearthFire sense is not about aesthetics. It's about warmth that lasts. Take a quick sip. Hi, Andrea. I see you. All right. You got kitty. Did he come get in your lap out there? Lucky. Fuzzy Butts is in a man behind the curtain's lap. I'm jealous. All right, you guys. That didn't sound good. All right, you guys. Take a breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. We're not trying to fix anything. Not trying to deepen it. We're just noticing our breath. Notice where it moves, where it hesitates, and notice the quiet rhythm of being alive without having to perform it. Feel the room around you, the sounds, inside, outside, temperature on your skin, and the simple, radical fact of being here. You made it through another day, another conversation, another reckoning with yourself. That, witchlings, matters so much more than you give it credit for. You are allowed to practice this slowly. You're allowed to stumble. You are allowed to forget and remember again. You are allowed to learn self-knowledge in pieces instead of all at once. That's how it actually works. Not as a lightning strike, but as a steady glow. As you move back into your day or your night, wherever you are, please remember this. Spread love. Spread joy. Spread kindness. Not the performative kind that looks good on social media and evaporates under pressure. The steady kind. The kind that checks in. The kind that apologizes when necessary. The kind that protects the vulnerable and tells the truth without cruelty. The kind that stays. Tell the people you love that you love them in all the forms they exist. 2 legs, 4 legs, fur, scales, wings, whiskers, and the occasional dramatic tail flick. Do not assume they know. Say it. Say it out loud. Say it often. Say it before pride interrupts you. Time moves a whole lot faster than we want to admit. Opportunities to say I love you are never, ever guaranteed. And now if you take one thing and one thing only away from this space, from this practice, let it be this. You are loved. Not because you're productive. Not because you are agreeable. Not because you keep everything running smoothly. You are loved because you exist. You are wanted. Not as a role or as a function, as a presence. You are needed, not in a way that traps you or that demands you burn out, but in the quiet truth that your particular combination of perception, humor, stubbornness, tenderness, and fire does not exist anywhere else. You have a reason and a purpose for being here, even if you don't know what it is yet. You don't have to have it mapped out. You don't have to monetize it or explain it. Sometimes purpose unfolds slowly. Sometimes it waits until you're ready to recognize it. Sometimes it looks nothing like what you imagined. It doesn't make it absent. You matter. Your presence matters. The way you listen matters. The way you protect what you care about matters. The way you soften in the presence of something beautiful matters. This world is better because you are in it. Not perfect because you're in it. Better. And that's enough. So, here is my blessing for you as we leave the cauldron tonight. May your awareness be steady. May your boundaries be clean and kind. May your inner flame warm you without consuming you. May you remember who you are without abandoning yourself to keep the peace. May your love be fierce. May your rest be real. May your days hold more honesty than performance. And when you forget, because you will, may you return gently. Thank you, my witchlings, for stepping into the cauldron with me tonight. Carry the warmth with you. I'll see you soon. Namaste, my witchlings.